classification. So who are covered? The taxpayers shall be classified and be covered by the regulations as follows. As mentioned, there will be first the micro taxpayers. They are the taxpayers whose gross sales for a taxable year is less than 3 million pesos. So if 3 million pesos rings a bell, it's because all of us know that this is the threshold for the VAT. So below the threshold for the VAT, we feel that they are micro taxpayers, very simple operations, and they will need very simple processes and forms as well. The next classification is a small taxpayer. So this shall refer to a taxpayer whose gross sales for a taxable year is 3 million pesos to less than 20 million pesos. The 20 million pesos we have extensively discussed, the cut-off, why it's 20 million. Well, we consider that this is like a boundary between what is a little bit complex to simple. Next classification is a medium taxpayer. So this shall refer to a taxpayer whose gross sales for a taxable year is 20 million pesos to less than 1 billion pesos. Again, for the threshold, you may recall that 1 billion pesos is actually one of the criteria for a large taxpayer under the previous law, which we have already repealed under the OPT. So, and lastly, a large taxpayer shall refer to a taxpayer whose gross sales for a taxable year is 1 billion pesos and above. So as mentioned, for purposes of this classification of taxpayers, gross sales shall refer to the total sales revenue, net of VAT, if applicable, during a taxable year without any other deductions. So again, this suggests that we only consider business income. As such, only business taxpayers will be classified. So gross sales, in particular, shall refer to business income, excluding compensation income earned under employer-employee relationship, passive income under sections 24, 25, 27, and 28, and income excluded under section 32B, all of the tax code. Business income shall include income from the conduct of trade or business or the exercise of profession. So this means that corporations as well as individuals will be covered. And in cases of those who have mixed income, we will consider only the business income for purposes of classification. So we will disregard the part on the compensation income and other income as mentioned in the regulations to be excluded. Okay, so since this is the first time we will be doing this, what is the initial classification of taxpayers? So for taxpayers who will register to engage in business or practice of profession upon the effectivity of the regulations, they shall initially be classified on its declaration in the registration forms starting from the year they are registered and shall remain as such unless reclassified. The concerned taxpayer shall be reclassified in accordance with the threshold values as stated under Section 2 of these regulations. So what is new in this provision is the fact that there is a portion on the declaration in the registration forms. So we do not want to reinvent the wheel. We will make use of the existing regulations, but we added a field in the new registration forms for the taxpayers to tick or to choose or to self-declare what their initial classification would be. Okay, so how will the taxpayers know what their classification are, or in case there will be a reclassification? Taxpayers shall be duly notified by the BIR of their classification or reclassification as may be applicable in a manner or procedure to be prescribed in the revenue issuance to be issued separately. Now, this revenue issuance is actually a revenue memorandum order, and which provides the details on how existing taxpayers will be reclassified. So rather than having a new system for this, we intend to enhance the present online registration and update system, initially for them to be able to view their tax classification, or for the new taxpayers to encode their classification based on the new registration forms. So what will happen to those who will not be newly registered? So we have transitory provisions for this. Taxpayers registered in 2022 and prior years shall be classified on the basis of their gross sales for taxable year 2022. Because for most, if not all of the taxpayers, we will have already data for this, and the BIR will be in a position to have a default classification in the online registration update system, which the taxpayers can view. For taxpayers registered in 2022 and prior years but without any submitted information on their gross sales for the taxable year 2022, and taxpayers registered in 2023 or in 2024 before the effectivity of these regulations, they shall initially be classified as micro, except VAT-registered taxpayers who shall be classified as small. So as mentioned, all of the taxpayers involved will be able to view their record in the enhanced online registration and update system. Basically, the ORUS will be our means for taxpayers to be notified and for them to update whether, and also if we need to classify them, whether it's taxpayer initiated, if they disagree with how they are initially classified, or BIR initiated if we have additional. Again, ORUS will be the means for us to do the classification as well as the reclassification. Okay, so the same procedures for the effectivity and the repealing clause as well as the separability clause for the other regulations apply to this particular regulations on classification. So with that, I hope that the classification will not just be numbers, but I hope all of us will give meaning to it. So for BIR, we will be able to have data on how to improve our processes to enhance the taxpayer service, and for the taxpayers, for you to find yourself in a particular group, for you to have a focused feedback, to be able to relate to BIR, how we can better improve our taxpayer service to you. Okay, that's my very short presentation. Thank you and have a good day to all.
Thank you, Assistant Commissioner Mayet.
Now we proceed with the discussion on registration and invoicing, to be discussed by Assistant Commissioner Janet R. Cruz of the Client Support Service.
Thank you very much. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. Good morning! Ayan, gising na gising pa. So, hindi na po ako mag-special mention kasi nasabi na po ang mga VIPs natin ngayon. Yung good morning ko para sa lahat na po ng nandito. So, the task that I am going to do now is ipipresent ko po sa inyo ang Revenue Regulations 7-2024. Particularly, these regulations, ito po yung pinakamahaba sa lahat ng mga 7 regulations that we have prepared. And we're given only 15 minutes. So, ang gagawin ko po, ipipresent ko po sa inyo are just highlights of the revenue regulations, those provisions that has been changed or has been added compared to the tax code that we have now in relation to the EOPT provisions. So let's now move on to the first slide. Siyempre po, title ng RR. So the revenue regulations pertaining to registration and invoicing is 7-2024. Madali pong tandaan because our revenue regulations for registration is also 7-2012. So parang naka-align, no? 7-2012 times 2 mo, 7-2024. Okay, moving on. Here are some of the salient features of RR 7-2024. Particularly, in the regulations, we have defined the word invoice. Why? Because particularly the change is for purposes of taxation, invoice na lang po ang kakilala, kakausapin at gagamitin ng lahat. Whether it be for income tax purposes, or for business tax purposes, that is, for VAT and percentage tax. Now, we have defined invoice, of course, based on our regulation as an evidence. It's a principal document to support the sale of goods and, of course, hindi lang po goods this time, for purposes of VAT, nakasama na din po ang services. So, dati po, mayroon tayong official receipt. This time, kalimutan nyo po, for purposes of VAT, ang official receipt. It would just be your invoice. And these invoice are considered principal in the sense that for sale purposes, siya lang po ang titignan natin. And that would be for tax purposes. We also have classified the invoice as to VAT invoice and non-VAT invoice. Particularly when we say VAT invoice, the issuer, which is of course the seller, is VAT registered. So yung pong kanyang i-issue na invoice, as long as the word VAT is indicated on the top, the header of the invoice, where you will see the TIN of the issuer, followed, of course, by the word VAT registered, then that particular invoice is said to be a VAT invoice. On the other hand, if the issuer is non-VAT registered, or I say the seller is non-VAT registered, the invoice that will be registered, madali pong malaman na non-VAT. You could just look at the header of the invoice. Again, you have there the TIN of the seller followed by the word non-VAT registered. And as such, that document or invoice that will be issued is called a non-VAT invoice. Now, there are several names, okay, to an invoice, depending upon the transaction. So, the keyword invoice is here, but you may actually name your invoice in different ways. Like, sales invoice, ito yung generic, no? Pwede mong gamitin sa lahat ng klase ng transactions mo. Then you have commercial invoice. This name is normally used on exports and are being looked into pagka po ang mga exporters natin ay nag-i-issue ng invoice. We also have billing invoice, which is normally issued by those who are engaged in service. Now, others may want to have a classification of transaction, whether it be a cash transaction or a credit transaction, where they may be now issuing a cash invoice for cash transactions and a charge or a credit invoice for credit sales. Other income may also be issued an invoice. Currently, there are some taxpayers who are using miscellaneous invoice for purposes of recording and as evidence of your other income. Also, in order to be more descriptive, insofar as those in the service group, you may use a service invoice. So, bahala na po kayo kung anong particular invoice, as long as yung invoice name would be descriptive of the title, the transaction po na i-issuehan ninyo ng invoice. But again, the generic kung gusto niyo po, sales invoice, pwede po. Now, next. The regulations also have identified the secondary invoices. Nirename po natin. So dito na po ngayon pumasok ang ating official receipts. Used to be bida siya sa VAT, but now, kontrabida na. No, second na lang po siya. Support na lang. So, official receipt is now under supplementary or secondary invoices together with other accounting records that you issue to support accounting entries in your books of accounts. This may actually include delivery receipt, collection receipt, purchase order, sales order, and other supplementary documents being used for accounting purposes. Other than invoice. Si invoice lang talaga for taxation purposes. Now, in certain cases, meron po tayong mga maliliit na mga establishments. So kung gagamit sila ng invoice, mag-i-issue pa ba kami ng official receipt to acknowledge receipt of payment o kaya acknowledgement receipt? Pwede po na hindi na, but your invoice can now serve as proof of payment. Now, for this purpose, we are going to issue a revenue memorandum circular with it annex po all the sample format of invoices. Kasama po doon kasi marami nagtatanong kung meron bang ni-require ang BIR. Mayroon po kaming sample format. We have there the minimum information, but it depends upon you kung gusto niyo pong pagandahin pa o dagdagan ang laman ng information sa inyong invoices. Okay, so payment po pwedeng gamitin, but we will be including a portion in that format, yun pong statement about the receipt of payment. Okay, next. Section 3 of the RR pertains now to invoicing and accounting requirements, specifically for VAT-registered persons. So ano po ito? Nakalagay po sa ating VAT law at of course sa ating tax code na ang issuance of VAT invoice is for every sale, barter, exchange, or lease of goods or properties, and for every sale, exchange of services regardless of amount of transaction. So, general provision po yan sa VAT law. Later in my slides, meron po itong dagdag na information. But for now, yan na lang po muna ang tignan natin. No. Also, under Section 3, since this pertains to invoicing for VAT-registered taxpayers, again, we reiterated that the VAT official receipt now is now not anymore a document for purposes of supporting VAT, whether it be for output or input tax. Now, Section 3 also pertains to the information required that should be contained in the VAT invoice. Particularly, tinanggal lamang po yung business style information which used to be is a mandatory information. In fact, during audit, specifically for refund, pagka po wala ito, dinidisallow yung refund. But for now, starting po itong ating EOPT Act, tinanggal na po ang business style information as a requirement. However, nandun pa din po yung TIN, Taxpayer Identification Number, the name of the buyer and address of such buyer, which is a mandatory requirement for the issuance of a VAT invoice when the amount of sales would be 1,000 pesos or more. Dating provision na to, yun lamang po ay nireiterate kasi tinanggal na yung information about business style. And lastly, we have enumerated in RR 724/2024 under Section 6B all the information that are required to be contained in a VAT invoice. Ito po ay na-streamlined na din po. May mga information that were required before that we have deleted already in these particular regulations. Now, Consequences of issuing erroneous VAT invoice. The provisions in the VAT law on what will be the consequences are the same. Except that, ito pong ipapakita ko sa inyo, ito po yung dagdag, no? At medyo kaiba. So sabi po dito, failure of VAT-registered person to provide complete information under Section B of the Tax Code, issuer shall be liable for non-compliance for issuing of invoice. Now, ito po, hina-highlight, no? Ang isang VAT-registered, sabi, di ba, for every sale. Now, pag hindi siya nag-issue, then that's tantamount to a violation, which is liability for non-issuance of an invoice. And we have a specific provision for penalty for this violation. Next, VAT shall still be allowed to be used as input tax credit on the part of the purchaser if the lacking information do not pertain to any of the following. Now, let me just do a little highlight on this. Whenever a buyer will be issued a VAT invoice and there will be a claim for input tax, we're quite strict on the information that should be contained in that particular invoice for us to allow the input tax claim. However, under the EOPT, pwede daw po na ma-allow na mag-claim ng input tax kahit kulang yung information. Provided hindi po ang mga sumusunod ang kulang na information. Ulit, dapat po itong sasabihin ko, hindi po ito mawawala doon sa invoice because any of this, pag wala, hindi po allowed ang input tax claim. So, ano po ito? Number one, you have the amount of sale. Next, amount of VAT for that particular sale, name and TIN of both the purchaser and the seller, and the description of goods or nature of service, and lastly, date of the transaction. So, lahat po ito, supposed to be mandatory po natin ilalagay sa invoice. But on the part of the purchaser, pwede pong mag-claim ng input, wag lang any, doon sa in-enumerate ko, ang nawawala o kulang na information sa VAT invoice nila. Okay? So, yan po yung isang medyo malaking provisions that EOPT na pagbabago. Now, insofar as preservation of your books of accounts and other accounting records, naging 5 years po tayo, and the regulations have in it information as to the different ways by which books of accounts may be maintained. It could actually be manual, loose leaf, or computerized. So we mentioned there na 5 years pa rin po regardless kung ito po ay manual, loose leaf, or computerized, but we have there the manner by which it will have to be maintained. Hard copy, of course, for purposes of those manual books and yung pong naglo-loose leaf, and then soft copy for purposes of those using computerized books of accounts. Now, examination and inspection, wala naman po tayong nabago. It was just highlighted that the books of accounts of a taxpayer may be audited by the BIR upon demand and submission of, it will be submitted for inspection only upon demand. So, provision po niyan, details of this in the revenue regulations. Now, let's move on to registration requirements. O ito po, alam na ng lihat. We issued an advisory, an RMC, that effective January 22, 2024, the registration fee which is being paid by those engaged in business has been removed under the EOPT Act. And then, hina-highlight po dito that registration of your business can be done electronically and manually. So, high-touch po ang BIR. So, meron po tayong electronic registration, which I want to mention right now for those of you who may not be familiar. First, electronic way of registering with the BIR, we have the new business registration portal. This is being used by those who are newly engaged in business. To support the newly registered business portal, we also have developed the TRRA, or the Taxpayer Registration Related Applications, which now would be accepting all registration-related transactions except registration of new business. Then, we also have collaborated with SEC, DTI, with SSS, PhilHealth, Pag-ibig, and selected local government, where we are part of the Philippine Business Hub. This is actually another electronic way of registering your business, not only with the BIR, but also with SEC or DTI and other agencies like SSS, PhilHealth, Pag-ibig, for purposes of employees and employers. Now, the very recent, and we are very proud to say that the BIR have now our own electronic registration, and this is an end-to-end. Kung yung pong new biz reg portal and TRRA, specific transaction lamang po, now our online registration and update system, or ORUS, is now available not only for registration, it also includes application for TIN, both for those engaged in business, EO98, and those employees. At the same time, any information about your registration that needs to be changed, that needs to be updated, you can likewise use our ORUS to make that particular update. And there is no need for you to go to any BIR office because you have your complete transaction using ORUS. ORUS have several functionalities. Hindi ko na po yan i-discuss sa ibang venue na lamang. But suffice to say that BIR have more than enough already to comply with EOPT insofar as registration. To include, of course, the manual, which is our single window policy. Hindi pa rin po natin tinatanggal yan because in certain areas in the Philippines, baka po medyo may challenge pagdating sa mga internet connection because ORUS is web-based, kailangan po ng internet connection. But they can also use their mobile phones to access ORUS. So far, electronic and manual way of registering business and securing TIN is ready 100% ang BIR. Next, insofar as registration, the regulations have actually a matrix of the registration where TIN will have to be applied. Well, of course, electronic, wala tayong venue. But for purposes of manual, pwede pong mayroong venue yan. And also, we have indicated in these regulations the different ways, or rather the different taxpayer type and where it will have to be registered, assuming the TIN will have to be issued. We also have the business name and store name on online seller. This is something that we have to highlight because before, only those who are having their business on a brick and mortar, there is a physical establishments, are registering with the BIR. And we all knew that online selling has proliferated. So in this regard, the regulations includes now a requirement for online sellers to be registered, and not only that, their store name, which the one you see online, needs to be or is required also to be registered with the BIR. Hindi lamang yung business name from DTI, even store name of these online sellers will have to be registered as well. Then, we have the reckoning period on when registration will have to be done. This will be something that will have to be looked into so that those who may be registering beyond this period will now be considered late registrant and therefore may be subjected to penalty for late registration. Now, this next bullet is something new. For purposes of those with physical establishment, there is already that requirement on posting of certificate of registration. In the regulations, as I mentioned earlier, we required already that those engaged in business be registered and their store name be registered as well. Included in the provision is actually a requirement that the certificate of registration that will be issued by BIR will have to be posted on their website or their sales platform. So ito po yung bago. And this is something that we have mandated in order for BIR to do some matching and validation na hindi po kami nahirapan insofar as information available on the display of the sellers. Now, another. Transfer and cancellation of registration, which ginagawa po natin ito, but some taxpayers actually may actually have complained because sabi, matagal daw pong magpa-cancel ng registration, pagtagal din ang maglipat, no, ng magta-transfer ng registration. Now, that particular complaint has been addressed under EOPT so that mere filing of the notice or letter for such transfer and cancellation of your registration will now be acted upon by BIR electronically and manually. So again, available po itong transfer of registration and application for cancellation in our electronic system, which of course we call ORUS. And a certain provision of Section 258 is also reiterated in the sense that under Section 258 of the NIRC, for a business to be considered lawfully in pursuit or ongoing, there is a need for the payment of the annual registration fee. However, since EOPT Act removed already that particular requirement on the annual registration fee, we have reiterated in that particular Section 258 of the NIRC that registration, of course, or rather non-payment of the annual registration fee is not considered unlawful pursuit of business. So, inalign lang po natin doon sa EOPT provision. Okay, some more information and requirement on the issuance of invoices. Pasensya na kayo, di ba sabi ko, ito po ang pinakamahaba sa lahat ng regulations. In fact, 17 pages, but I'm doing it in, I think, 10 slides lang po ito. So we're now on my end slide. Okay, issuance of invoices. So, sinabi natin, mandatory, mag-i-issue na ng invoice for every sale of goods and services. However, there is now this threshold which has been increased. Used to be 100 pesos. So right now, under EOPT, the threshold is 500 pesos and up. This is mandatorily required to be issued an invoice. However, there may be cases where each sale transaction would fall below that particular threshold of 500. Does that mean na yung pong mga seller ay exempt na, hindi na mag-i-issue ng invoice for those sales below the threshold? Hindi po. We added, there is an additional provision in our law which provide that an invoice or one invoice will have to be issued at the end of the day for those sales that would fall below the threshold, which is 500 pesos and up. So that lahat po ng benta na mababa doon sa 500, at the end of the day, mag-i-issue tayo ng isang invoice. Now, may tanong, sino ang customer? Eh, siyempre, si Varius. Kilala niyo po ba siya? Gising pa kayo, natawa kayo eh. Okay. Now, official receipt. Sabi ko, ano na lang siya, supporting na lang siya na cost. So, if mag-i-issue po ng official receipt, hindi na po ito main, so it is now a supplementary document and as such, in order to prevent the possible claim of input or erroneous claim of input on the part of the buyer, we deemed it that official receipt should have the statement, "This document is not valid for input tax credit," for purposes of buyers to be reminded. Okay. So, nasabi na po ito, na-streamline na po natin yung ilang mga information sa laman ng invoices. Then, we highlighted also dito po, yung pong authority to print for those who will be using manual invoices. Hinighlight po, ang authority to print ay libre, walang bayad. Pag may naningil, isumbong po ninyo kay COM. So, libre po, hinighlight po dito sa batas. Now, this is the most important part, the transitory provisions, particularly for those engaged in service, okay? Na official receipt ang inyong ginagamit. Now, basically, number 1, sa transitory provision po natin, certificate of registration reflecting registration fee. Ito po, kasi di ba, nakalagay po sa mga COR ninyo ngayon yung RF. Ngayon po, okay, yung iba, nagkagulo, nagpunta sa BIR at pilit pinapatanggal yung RF sa Certificate of Registration po nila. So, we now have indicated dito, yun pong COR na ginagamit, nakapost na mayroong RF nakalagay is valid. It is still valid, therefore, there is no need for you to go to any RDO and request for change of your COR. Okay? Hindi po kayo huhulihin o ipe-penalty dahil may RF yung COR po ninyo. Nilagay na natin dito sa transitory provision para alam din po ng taga-BIR na magti-TCBD. Okay? Now, of course, pwede pong mapalitan ang COR kung meron po kayong update na gagawin sa registration information ninyo. Now, with regard to your unused official receipts, specifically for those engaged in sale of service, okay? Hinighlight natin na ito po ay supplementary. However, the question is, what do we do with our unused official receipt? Ang dami-dami pa. So, mayroon po tayong provision na nilagay dito. Number 1, your manual unused official receipt may still be used by you, but you have to convert it to an invoice. Okay? Iko-convert po natin ito sa invoice by changing the word official receipt to invoice. Now, kanina I mentioned ang daming pangalan ng invoice. So kung i-convert nyo to into an invoice, yung ipapalit yung pangalan should be the one you have chosen. Kaninang in-enumerate ko different names of an invoice. It should be reflective, of course, of the transaction that will be issued that particular invoice. Okay. However, yung pong converted official receipt may be used as an invoice only until December 31, 2024. So, ang pong natitira pa, hindi na po pwedeng gamitin. So, i-issue na ng i-issue sa lahat ng transaction po ninyo. Huwag na kayong mag-ipit ng ibang transaction, bukod lahat na para walang matira. Kasi later on, baka sisingilin nyo kami dun sa unused naman na hindi nyo po na-issue because of that December 31, 2024. Now, isa lamang po ang aming requirement. Sabihin nyo sa amin. So you have to notify BIR in writing kung saan po kayong RDO registered, ano yung series ng official receipt na i-convert ninyo into an invoice. Okay? Yan po, isasabit nyo sa amin 30 days from the effectivity of our revenue regulations, which kanina, per Attorney Nana, is April 27. So starting April 27, bilang kayo ng 30 days, wag naman pong puro deadline na lang po, no? Kung kailan last day, tsaka na naman kayo magsasubmit. Just the unused receipt that will have to be converted to an invoice. Now, that's the manual. How about those using cash register machine and POS. This actually is easier because you just have to reconfigure if you want to use that particular POS official receipt. Particularly, kunyari, mga nasa restaurants, hotels, ito yung mga nag-i-issue niyan. So, papalitan lang po yung title ng document to an invoice. Again, kung ano man ang tawag nyo dyan sa invoice na yan, yun pong official receipt. Now, ire-reconfigure po ninyo, tatanggalin, hindi po buburahin. Doon sa nauna, doon sa unused, buburahin po ninyo yung official receipt at i-stamp ninyo yung word na invoice. Sa CRM-POS, syempre, system ito, buburahin, tatanggalin, pero ang lalabas na yung invoice. Now, just insofar as the series, itutuloy lang po ninyo kung ano yung series ng official receipt na gagamitin ninyo na papalitan ng word na invoice. Okay? Same series din po. And again, notification lang po sa RDO on what was the start of the series that were converted to invoice. Now, hinighlight po namin sa regulations, notification lamang. So, RDOs, no need for approval. Tinanggal po natin yun. So, pagdala lang sila ng sulat, that's sufficient para po sa Ease of Paying Taxes Act. Kasi yun ang title ng law, kaya po ang provisions natin dapat align dun sa Ease of Paying Taxes provisions. Okay. Then, computerized accounting system. For those of you who are using this, you need to revisit your accounting system. See the impacts of the law in relation to your accounting process. Alam po natin ang gumagamit ng accounting system, kasama po dito ang accounting entries. So when you do your issuance of rather official receipt, doon ba nagkaka-accounting entry na kayo recognizing your VAT liability or income tax liability? Or it may be in certain documents like billing statement or statement of account. Kailangan pong tignan ninyo. And if there is a need for you to enhance in order to comply with our provision, then you are given until June 30, 2024 to do that particular enhancement in your system. Now, if June 30 may not be sufficient, baka ang inyo pong mga supplier ay nasa abroad, then you may actually request for extension from the regional director and a SEER, Assistant Commissioner of the Large Taxpayer Service, on the extended period. But of course, you have to give us the information why, reason for such request for extension. And that extension is not beyond 6 months from the effectivity of this regulation. And that's April 27. So count po kayo, but we are giving you that allowance. Now again, sana po hindi naman i-maximize hanggang 6 months na naman, no? Kasi po alam naman namin ano yung mga pwedeng enhancement at gaano katagal ito. Bigay lang po kami ng allowance for those specifically na nasa abroad pa ang kanilang mga developers. Okay, I think isa na lang. May isa pa. Okay. Issuance of official receipt for sale of goods or services after June 30. Ito po yung binigay nating time, no? Will not be considered as evidence of sale and services. Sabi nga natin, hindi na siya available, hindi na siya primary, supplementary na lang siya. And a seller who issues still an official receipt for purposes of sale and not an invoice will be subject to a violation which is tantamount to non-issuance of invoice. So si seller, meron pong violation and that's subject to penalty. And lastly, the penalty would be 1,000 to 50,000 and suffer imprisonment of not less than 2 years but not more than 4 years as provided under Section 264A of the Tax Code. So yan po. Okay. Effectivity, sinabi ko na. So April 27, 2024. And I think, diyan na po. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat.
Thank you, Sir Janet. Okay pa po kayo? Dalawang revenue regulations, and we have 5 revenue regulations to go. For our next presenter, may I now call on Assistant Commissioner Rosana San Vicente of the Assessment Service for the presentation on income and withholding tax provisions.
Magandang umaga po, fellow taxpayers. Ang task ko po ay to discuss revenue regulations for 2024. So yung title pa lang nitong RR4 2024, you can see the provisions in the tax code that were amended by the EOPT Act. So Section 1 pertains to the scope nitong RR4. So marami po tayo nakikitang provisions, in-enumerate po dyan. But basically, ito lang po yun. So yung i-discuss po natin. The first, yung filing of tax returns and payment of taxes to be made electronically or manually, regardless of venue or jurisdiction of the Revenue District Office. Then, second one, the removal of civil penalty in case of filing of return at the wrong venue. C, non-filing of income tax return by an overseas contract worker or overseas Filipino worker. D, the removal of additional requirements for deductibility of certain payments. And last, the withholding of tax at source and declaration of income by the recipient. Section 2 pertains to definition of terms. So we have defined in the RR for 6 terms. The first 2 terms, filing of return and the payment of tax or remittance of tax, were defined under Section 22. That's why dun sa title, nandun yung Section 22. However, in the regulations, we included some terms na dinefine din namin because it's important sa pagpapa-explain ng other provisions of the revenue regulations. Like yung authorized agent banks, although you all know what an AAB is, the revenue collection officer, the authorized tax software provider, the overseas Filipino worker. These are all defined in the revenue regulations. Hindi ko na po yun iisa-isahin because I'm tasked to discuss only salient features. Then Section 3, ito yung modes of filing of tax returns and payment of internal revenue taxes. So, ang meat lang ng Section 3, ano ba yung requirement namin? Pagdating sa filing of tax returns, it shall be made electronically. However, for the payment of tax, electronic or manual pa rin. So, just a little background of why this was prescribed by the BIR. In the crafting of the law, actually, the lawmakers wanted the filing of tax returns and payment of taxes done electronically. All. Wala na dapat manual because we are moving towards digitalization. So, ano pa nga ba, bakit magmamanual pa tayo? Lahat ng natin, mga taxpayers, hindi naman po lahat pala. Meron pa rin mga hindi pa digitalized na mga taxpayers. However, yun yung trust ng ating agency. So, sinabi nga kanina ni Commissioner, by 2028, the BIR, yung agency natin, is fully digitalized. So, we are starting now. So, we are mandating all taxpayers to file their tax returns electronically. By saying electronically, it's the manner of filing and submission of tax returns through our electronic filing and payment system. And of course, also through the BIR forms facility. Hindi po yung offline na paggamit nitong EBIR form facility. Because when you use the EBIR form facility na offline, and hindi nyo po yan sinubmit, pinrint nyo lang, and then you presented for payment dun sa AAB or RCO, hindi po natin masasabing electronically filed ang tax return. It has to be submitted online, yung tax returns. Now, for the payment, meron pa po palang isa. Pwede rin po yung tax returns na ipafile po natin through the use of our authorized tax software provider. So ito yon, yung mga third party po yan, they render electronic filing services, electronic payment services to their taxpayer clients. Yung mga to, makikita po natin sa BIR website kung sino-sino po itong mga ATSPs natin. So we can choose among them kung paano nyo po ipafile ang tax returns or you pay yung inyong taxes due declared in those tax returns. For the payment of tax, ito meron tayong option to still manually pay the tax due declared in your tax returns. This is because of the fact that yung electronic payment po natin, medyo limited pa rin naman po yung available modes natin, available platforms natin. So, yung mga available platforms po natin, those are also posted in our website. So, ang in charge po nga dyan sa pag-update ng list, it's also, of course, our collection service. So, marami po yung mode ng electronic payment. So, under Section 3 din po, kung makikita niyo po yung RR, in-include po rin namin doon yung tungkol sa filing ng individuals, married individuals. So, dati-dati na tong requirement that when the married couples file their annual income tax return, they should file it jointly. However, we included in this section that separate filing of annual income tax return by married individuals can be allowed if it is impracticable for them to make the joint filing of annual income tax return. So one example that we included there is that yung couple, yung taxpayer na nakadeclare dun sa return, registered siya in another district office, and the spouse is also engaged in business, registered in another district office. So sa case na to, yung pagko-conduct ng audit ng BIR, nagkakaroon ng problema because isang return, and then when we issue the return for the taxpayer filer, yung isa lang ang nakukover. So yung isa na sa different RDO, because of the one return, usually nagkakaroon ng issue sa issuance ng aming letter of authority. That's only one example of a scenario where it is impracticable for the married individuals to file a joint return. Next section, Section 4, removal of civil penalty in case of filing of return at the wrong venue. Ano ba itong civil penalty na tinanggal natin? It's under Section 248A2 of the tax code. Ito yung 25% surcharge for filing of a return to a wrong venue. So dati-dati po, kapag ka ang taxpayer nag-file ng kanyang tax return in a district office where he is not registered, wrong venue yon. So ini-impose po ang 25% surcharge. However, with the EOPT, where a taxpayer can file the tax return anytime, anywhere, hindi na po yun i-impose. Why? Electronic na nga po tayo, di ba, ang tax filing. However, meron din pala kanina sa Section 3 na allowed ang manual filing pa rin ng tax return if there is an advisory na hindi po available ang anumang electronic platforms for filing of tax returns. I-allow pa rin po yun. So if that scenario happen, yung taxpayer can file the tax returns to an AAB na under ng different RDO. So for example, a taxpayer registered in RDO 39. So nagkaroon ng advisory na hindi pwedeng walang available yung mga electronic platforms. So that particular taxpayer registered in RDO 39 can file the tax returns and pay the tax due in an AAB under the jurisdiction of another district. Say for example, in Makati. So yun po ang sinasabi natin doon. So pag nag-file siya doon sa Makati, itong 25% surcharge, hindi po yan i-impose ng BIR. Section 5 pertains to individuals not required to file income tax return. Meron na po tayong existing provisions enumerating individuals not required to file an income tax return. Ito yung Section 9 of Revenue Regulations number 8, 2018. So ano lang po ang dinagdag po namin dun sa enumeration na yon? It's the Overseas Filipino Worker or OCW na dinefine po natin sa RR. Next, Section 6, removal of additional requirements for deductibility of certain payments. Yung entire provisions po ng Section 34K of the Tax Code as amended on additional requirements for deductibility of certain income payments is repealed by the EOPT. Therefore, kung meron po man mga income payments ang particular taxpayer which are supposed to be subject to withholding tax and that taxpayer failed to withhold the tax due on that income payments, ia-allow pa rin po yun na deduction from gross income. So hindi na kailangang ma-disallow yan during audit. However, it will be applied for taxable year 2024. So what will apply to prior years before itong EOPT? Meron din naman tayo na Revenue Regulation 6-2018. But under this Revenue Regulation 6-2018, nag-exist yung 34K. However, merong sinabi doon na kung halimbawa man, may mga income payments itong particular taxpayer, which the taxpayer failed to withhold the tax required to be withheld, ay i-allow provided the withholding tax on that particular income payments has been paid. So i-allow siya. So mangyayari lang po yun, for example, kunyari sa conduct ng audit, na ipakita na ng ating revenue officer sa taxpayer yung findings niya. So nakita niya, meron ka mga disallowed, i-disallow ko tong income payments mo. So hindi siya pwedeng i-deduct from your gross income because you failed to withhold. Yun lang yung reason for disallowing. But the other requirements for deductibility, like yung expense or your income payment is necessary sa business, ordinary, and well-substantiated, ia-allow kapag si taxpayer during the presentation, inadmit na niya and then babayaran niya yung corresponding withholding tax requirement on that particular income payment. Pero kapag dumating po yun, yung case, hindi siya binayaran, at na dumating pa sa issuance ng assessment, the particular office responsible in the issuance of the assessment notice will still assess income tax deficiency by disallowing that particular income payments. So magre-result po yun sa income tax liability. And at the same time, issue an assessment on the penalty for non-withholding. What is the penalty for non-withholding? The tax equivalent to the tax that was not withheld by the taxpayer. So dalawa pa rin po yung magiging assessment. And we issued, because there are several questions raised during the public consultation and the internal briefing, kaya po naglabas po na tayo ng RMC on that. So clear na po yan, application natin ng 34K. The next one, Section 7, withholding of tax at source. So we have existing provisions on the time of withholding. It's section 2.57.4 of RR 2-98 as amended. So dati-dati, yung obligation of the taxpayer to withhold, meron tayong sinusundan doon na accrued or paid, whichever comes earlier. This time, binanggit natin dito, yung time of withholding, the obligation of the payer to deduct and withhold the tax arises at the time an income payment is accrued or recorded as an expense or asset by the payer, whichever is applicable in the payer's books, or at the issuance by the seller of the sales invoice or adequate document to support such payable, whichever comes first. So merong mga natanggap kaming issue questions tungkol dito. Wala daw na bago. Dati pa rin ang in-apply. Hindi po. Accrual pa rin po ito lahat. Accrual. During the public consultation done regarding the draft RR, meron lang po kasi kami doon binanggit na yung time of withholding will arise upon the issuance of an invoice for the sale transaction. So ibig sabihin, done na yung transaction, delivered yung goods, delivered yung services na pinrocure ng payer or buyer. So, paano daw kung halimbawa yung seller nag-delay ng issuance ng invoice? Ibig sabihin, hindi magwi-withhold yung payer, hindi nag-a-arise yung withholding. Kaya po, ganyan ang nangyari. So, at the time na yung buyer, i-record na niya yung income payments either as an asset or expense, yung time of withholding, kung ang particular expense or income payment na yan ay subject to withholding, ay dapat na niyang i-record sa books at dapat niyang i-remit sa BIR. So for example, ngayon nangyari yung transaction. Today is April. So ngayon yung transaction na record na niya. So sundan lang natin kailan ba due yung remittance nitong tax withheld na winidheld natin ng April. Of course, ngayon ang declaration ng withheld taxes quarterly na. However, we have also requirement na meron tayong monthly payments. So, kunyari, ngayon ng withholding sa May, i-remit niya po yun. So, pareho pa rin naman. May monthly remittance po tayo. So, ito yung sinasabi to cure delay in the part of the seller sa pag-i-issue ng sales invoice. Then, Section 8 pertains to the income of recipient. Ito, yung recipient ng income, ang binabanggit lang naman dito, yung creditable tax na required to be withheld at source under Section 57 of the Tax Code as amended, shall be included in the return of its recipient. Kung halimbawa may excess of the amount of tax so withheld over the tax due on his return shall be refunded subject to the provision of Section 204 of that same code. So kaya yan in-emphasize dito, although we have another RR pertaining to refund ng mga excess tax credit na yan, in-emphasize lang dito na yung recipient ng income, pag nag-declare siya ng income, na nag-earn na siya ng creditable tax on that income, dapat naka-declare sa income tax return niya yung income corresponding to the tax credit. So, an example of this is, kunyari, ako si seller, may buyer, nag-issue na siya sa akin ng tax credit. So, on this taxable period, because na-issue na sa akin yung may tax credit na ako, nagkaroon ng transaction, even though mga payments hindi ko pa natatanggap, I have to declare that income on my annual income tax return. Because I will always also claim the tax credit corresponding to that. So yun lang yun para may matching. Hindi po pwede na nag-claim ka ng tax credit, however, the income kung saan nanggaling yung tax credit na yon ay hindi nakadeclare. So walang matching po yun. So lahat tayo alam yung matching principle sa accounting. Kaya yon ang sinusundan po natin. So The next few sections of RR4 2024 pertains to the separability, repealing, and effectivity, which are all the same with the other revenue regulations. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Asir San Vicente of the Assessment Service. To our attendees, if you have any questions throughout the presentations, kindly write them down on the piece of paper provided at your tables. Again, if you have questions throughout the presentations, kindly write them down on the piece of paper provided at your tables. Our ushers and usherettes, identifiable by their official BIR tax campaign shirts, will collect your questions after you write them. Let's now invite Assistant Commissioner of the Legal Service to present the value-added tax. Assistant Commissioner Larry M. Barcelo.
Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. So my topic this morning is Revenue Regulations 3-2024, entitled Implementing the Amendments Introduced by the EOPT Act on the VAT and percentage tax provisions of the tax code. So the coverage of this short presentation are the highlights of the amendments made by the EOPT Act on the Titles 4 and 5 of the tax code, and then I'll be discussing the transitory provisions of the RR. So these are the highlights of the amendments on VAT and percentage taxes. We identified 13 items. Number 1 is the shift from cost basis to accrual basis for both sales of goods and services, including transactions to government or any of its political subdivisions, instrumentalities or agencies, and GOCCs. As a consequence of such shift, all references to gross selling price, gross value in money, and gross receipts found in RR 16-2005, or the Consolidated VAT Regulations of 2005, and its amendatory RRs shall now be referred to as gross sales, regardless of whether the sale is for goods or for services. All references to sales invoice, ORs, shall now be referred to as invoice. All references to receipts, payments, which is the basis for the recognition of sales of services under Title 4 and 5 of the tax code, shall now be referred to as billing or billed, whichever is applicable. Number 2 highlight, there's now a revised definition of gross sales for sale of services. It now provides that the issuance of invoice, or what triggers the issuance of invoice, is when the service has already been rendered, or the use or lease of properties have already been supplied by the seller, such that the deposits on advance payment on services to be performed had now been removed by the EOPT Act. So, kung nakareceive po tayo ng deposits and advance payments at hindi pa naman po ina-apply for a particular service, there's no obligation on the part of the taxpayer to issue an invoice. But kung yung taxpayer issues an invoice, the transaction will now be subject to VAT. So ang suggestion namin, kung ganyan po yung situation, naka-receive kayo na advance payments, deposits, not applying to a particular service, you may issue a supplementary document or supplementary receipts. So under the definitions of cross-sale for long-term contracts for a period of 1 year or more, the invoice shall be issued on the month in which the service or use or lease of properties is rendered or supplied. This is to emphasize, no, na na yung nature ngayon doon sa sales of service is when the service, you issue invoice when the service has already been rendered or the use or lease of properties have already been supplied by the seller. Also, under the new definition of gross sales for sale of services, it now institutionalized the amount earmarked for payment to third party or receive as reimbursement for payment on behalf of another which do not redound to the benefit of the seller as provided. Take note of this provision, no? Of this statement in the law, as provided under relevant rules and regulations, as exclusion from gross sales. No? Kung may payment to third party, reimbursement for payment on behalf of another, hindi siya magpo-form part of be regularly adjusted to every 3 years. So expect after 3 years, this is January 22, yung law natin, 2024. So expect after 3 years, January 23 or 22, 2027, magbagbago na po yung, hindi na yan 3 million, baka 3.2 na yan o 3.3, 27, 2024. The sale is in credit or on account. There is a written agreement on the period to pay the receivable. Kasi yun po yung triggering point niya, no? Para maging uncollected receivable niya. Nag-lapse yung period to pay. As distinguished dun sa bad debt, no? For purposes of deduction of income tax na dapat may ascertainment of the receivables to be worthless. No? Ito kasi nag-lapse lang yung period. So there must be agreement. Since the period is material, there must be agreement on the period in high risk. And under the EOPT, sabi niya, medium and high risk claim shall be subject to audit or other verification process. It grant of VAT refund. Only the taxpayer shall be liable for the disallowed amount without by Ma'am Rose and Vicente. And ito po yung transitory provisions. Marami nagtatanong dito eh. Is prospective in nature. That will be my last slide. Thank you for listening.
Pangalawang pinakamahabang revenue regulations. So, try ko pong bibilisan, baka bigla akong ipa-eject ni Attorney Nana. But first of all, I would like to show our appreciation po to our lawmaker for. And it was also introduced po yung policies for judicial claims and which repealed yung supervision 5% po siya ng total purchases. And then if the claim is classified as high, 100% verification po ang ating gagawin. Nag-identify din po tayo ng limitations under RR 5-2024 and I will highlight 3 of those. Number 1 po, yung for the first time claimants po, yung first 4 claims po nila, either quarterly or annually, classified po siya as high risk. So,
law, there are certain special privileges given to micro and small taxpayers. Ano-ano po ba yung mga special concessions na yon? Reduced civil penalty rate, reduced interest rate, reduced fine and compromise penalty rates for certain violations. Again, ang entitled lang po dito, micro penalty instead of the regular 1,000 per violation, ang impose lang po namin is 500 pesos for each such failure. But the aggregate amount for all such failures during the calendar year shall not exceed 12,500 because yung regular maximum po niyan is 25,000 pesos. So for micro and small, ang maximum is only 12,500. Another special concession for micro and small taxpayers is the reduced compromise penalty rates. So please take note po na yung reduced compromise penalty rates is not applicable to all violations. So hindi lahat ng violations are entitled to the reduced compromise penalty rates. Only in these following cases, if the violation pertains to Section 113, which is the invoicing and accounting requirements, Section 237 on the issuance of invoices, and Section 238 with respect to the obligation of the printers. Kung nandyan po yung violations entitled sa reduced compromise penalty rates. But other than those violations, i-impose po namin yung regular compromise penalty rates. Makikita po natin yung table of compromise rates under Revenue Memorandum Order Number 7-2015 and some policies under RMC Number 3-2022 and other relevant revenue issuances. Right now, currently, we are updating RMO number 7-2015 para ma-consolidate po namin lahat ng issuances on penalty. So, malapit na rin po namin ilabas yan. Thank you.